Oh, welcome to SEC Live here on the Full 40 Sports Network, that SEC podcast. Michael Bratton, Braden Gall, division championship weekend, sort of, unless maybe you're an Ole Miss fan. We'll see, but it's going to be a huge weekend. We've got a lot of stuff to get to from last week and a lot of stuff to get to this week. M-I-Z, Michael, M-I-Z.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell you since the offseason. I know you've always hated Missouri, but
I know.
I'm on the bandwagon.
I've hated Missouri for so long that I made my wife and kids stop on summer vacation in Columbia, Missouri to go eat at an Ozark brunch spot. It was delicious. I enjoyed the pizza down there as well.
What was the name?
I made my kids break into the indoor practice facility at Missouri. There's a lot of Missouri fans. If you give me a second, talk about how much you loved Missouri all summer. I'll find the place that.
Well, I think one of the best stories in all of college football is Brady Cook. And I know I like to say bold things, but I don't think that's too bold because, my God, everybody wanted the guy out. I mean, when's the last time you heard a Missouri fan clamor for Sam Horn? And, I mean, that seems like a joke right now, but that was all we heard in the offseason. And, I mean, we can pull up the episodes leading up to the Kansas State game. They struggled against, who was that? Maybe Memphis or I remember I picked them against
Kansas State.
The game prior, they struggled, and by God, they were out. Is Drink the guy? We know what we're getting with Drink. I mean, this is not me saying it. This is everybody saying it. So, I mean, he's SEC Coach of the Year. So, a lot to be said of the improvements that Missouri's made.
So my two children, the practice facility had not been available to the media yet at Mizzou. I called in some favors, and my two kids, I've got a photo. In fact, I'll hold that up too. I'll hold that up if you don't believe me. Ozark Mountain Biscuit and Bar.
Okay.
Fantastic Bloody Mary, delicious food. If you MIZ folks are in the comments and you know what I'm talking about, we went to Ozark Mountain Biscuit and Bar on the north side of Columbia. It was absolutely delicious. It was wonderful. And I've hated Missouri so long that I visited the indoor practice facility and made my family drive 30 minutes outside of the way to go take a look at Columbia, Missouri, and show them Coach Farrow outside.
Right. No, I mean, that makes sense. I knew you always hated him. But
exactly.
Let me see. I'm just kind of curious if you can show us on this diagram.
Okay.
Where did you sit? Where did you sit?
All right. So if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, I do appreciate you guys. So the bathrooms are to the right as you're looking at the screen. I think that's the same as what I am. So if you go back, the front door is back to the left, like through that brick wall there. This is like the backside where all the alcoholics hang out. All the families are in the front and on the patio.
Oh, gotcha.
We were back there by the kitchen, but past that left door there around the corner. Delicious. It was absolutely delicious. Wonderful. And it's kind of, I like that everything right there is right next to each other. No free shouts, by the way. I like that everything there, like the softball stadium's really, really nice. It's right there next to the basketball and the football and the baseball. Like they're all right next to each other. So it was pretty cool. I made my family. We were going to the Ozarks for a lake trip for the family, just me and the wife and the two girls. And I was texting a guy from the local media. I texted him a picture of my two daughters standing inside the Missouri football, indoor practice facility.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, dude, we haven't even seen that yet. How did you get in there? I was like, well, I know people.
So this is all a lead up to you explaining why Missouri is going to whoop Georgia's ass on Saturday in Athens. Let's hear it. After that intro, you're not going to tout up Mizzou?
That was the whole thing. Look, I want to talk Tennessee. I want to talk Ole Miss. I want to talk a lot of things. But Missouri, to me, I do think that they have pieces and weapons that will cause a lot of problems. I do think that early on that they can play, like if they have to play. I hate using. There's so many cliches, like hair on fire, disrespect card. There's so many different ways you can describe it. But Eli Drinkwitz says had 2 weeks. I would assume that every TV screen in that brand new facility had something on it from the media, from game tape, from a Georgia coach, from just something. I would have every TV going. Every meeting would start with, no one believes you. No one believes you can do it. No one believes you can do it. I think that's where it has to start. And if it starts there and they come out and play their best football, I think they can win the game. They are good enough at quarterback. They are good enough on the weapons on the outside. I don't know if they've got – my issue is, keeping that intensity and matching it for 60 minutes? That's my question.
They just got to figure out how Kirby does it every year. 7-5. He was pissed off Dan Mullen picked the Florida Gate. Who in the hell's listening to Dan Mullen's commentary? I mean, I know he's on ESPN, but I've not listened to a damn word he says, and I'm a big Dan Mullen fan. So
well, you know how to do this in the media. You don't need to actually take the quote that's real. You just take a picture of it, put a quote on top of it, take it out of context, slap it on a TV, and put it over the bench press machine.
Yeah, that sounds like something you do. So I get it. I mean, that's what Drink needs to be doing. You're right. They need to take out a page out of Kirby's book heading into this epic matchup.
All right, here's the picture for those of you watching. There is the two daughters inside the Missouri practice facility.
That's pretty cool.
It was awesome, man. I was like, go in there. We're gonna walk around and take a picture. And I'm gonna text it to my buddy who covers the team and piss him off. Anyway, MIZ. My concern is how does the energy level change over the game? How does it like the depth and the physicality of Georgia? I'm not worried about like 1v1 for Missouri, right? Like I'm not worried about first quarter, second quarter. I might not even worry about third quarter. It's you get to 70, 80 plays and you are in a war in a primetime situation that you've never been in before as a player. And at what point do you break? And I just don't. This is where Missouri can prove that that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Or this is where Georgia proves that like that long sustained like 6-year build process to back-to-back championships and depth and everything holds up. I don't know that. I think if you've got you've done it a million different ways. If you're Missouri, you ran the football down South Carolina's throat. You threw it all over LSU. You kind of did it both ways against Kentucky. You've done it multiple ways. What tricks do you have? What tricks do you have? That's the question I want to know. And it's not, you don't need to run like fake punts and like super tricks. I'm talking like normal clown tricks.
I like that a guy named Aladdin's calling you a clown. Where's the genie? Where's he at? You know?
To me, it's the wrinkles. I guess I should say, not trick plays. I don't like that. I want what are Kirby Moore's wrinkles in this game? That whether it's getting burden open, whether it's different run fits, like I just want to know. Like I think they need something different. You've got film on Georgia. You've got Auburn film on Georgia. You got South Carolina first half film against Georgia. There are teams that have been successful for periods of time. The question is, can you be successful for the entire game? That's the problem.
Right. And you know what I do? I was just looking at the schedule there because I was trying to see who has been successful. Pull a page out of Hugh's book. I mean, Brady Cook's a good athlete. I'd run him. And I realized Cody Schrader's had a good year. Nathaniel Pete's a solid back. But I think you got to play 11 on 11. And Brady has shown, I mean, he has a few games, of over 100 rushing yards. Maybe not this season, but in his career. And I think that's a key to the game for me. How many rushing yards does Brady Cook get? And how much can we engineer? Not him running for his life, obviously, but
not improv, designed,
schemed plays. Yeah. You know what?
I would argue that is also who's going to win the Alabama LSU game. I think if Jalen Milroe has designed run plays, which I've been asking for all season, and then the rest of the game plays out the way we think it could in theory in Alabama LSU, I don't think Alabama loses the game. I think if Missouri wants to win, they need some design runs. If LSU is going to win, that's the one guy who has to go off script. Jaden Daniels has to go off script, and he's very good at it. He does it every single week. So I don't think Missouri's overrated. I think Georgia, this is going to sound, they're not underrated, but like they've been
number one's underrated. Got it.
Yeah. They've been sort of like, we've all said the same thing about Georgia. Not as good as last year. Not sure they're going to win the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of been the conversation.
Who's faster, Jalen Milroe or Harold Perkins? Because that'd be a hell of a race. That may be what determines the outcome.
Each one could win multiple. That's one of those 50-50 where like Milroe's going to get him a couple times and then Perkins is going to get him a couple times. And then to me, that's where Tommy Rees needs to do the thing that he hasn't done all year, which is show us this really interesting designed plays for the quarterback to run the football. That's the last piece of the offense because frankly, LSU's defense still sucks giant donkey balls pretty much. So
they've got
happy Halloween, by the way, everybody. Happy Halloween. So there you go.
They've gotten a little bit better last couple weeks. They've not played anyone with a pulse, but they
Auburn's offense will do that to everybody.
What about Army? I mean, they shut down our military.
Yeah, I don't think that's nice. That's good. It's good.
They didn't get. They had a shutout last week.
Three of their top 4 corners are out. I don't know. Yeah, exactly, Hobson. Exactly right. I don't think they stop Alabama.
Did you see what Brian Kelly said? This is why you come to LSU. If you're scared of the moment, then sit your ass down. Don't come here. I like that message.
Are we already off Missouri, Georgia? I agree with Brian Kelly. The key is going to be is the same. It's the exact same story against Alabama. LSU can't cover anybody. They're going to give up big plays. Jalen Milrose hit big plays the entire season. It's going to happen. The question is, he takes sacks all season long. Can you pressure him? Can you keep him from making throws and keep him in the pocket and keep him from making a bunch of plays? And that's where Tommy Rees needs to design some fucking runs. And he hasn't done it most of the season. Milrose's been pretty good. He's getting better. Just like Carson Beck is getting better. Like all these, like Jaden Daniels is playing at the top of his game. Like this is a big time quarterback matchup between these 4 teams this weekend. And it's cheesy to say whichever quarterback plays the best is going to win, but it's probably true.
I have heard Jalen Milroe is not comfortable doing read option plays, and that's why they don't run those.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that. It can be power.
I know, but why in the hell? I mean, can't you just coach him? I don't understand that's like a weird thing to. I mean, just coach him. You know, isn't that what coaching is?
Yes, I would say it's weird considering when you run 7-on-7 drills in the offseason from like age 5 to age college, you're working on that handoff and the zone read and reading the defensive end, and like that's what you do. So I think that's a little odd, but we're also in a year where defense might be coming back a little bit, and maybe he's a little bit more of a traditional style quarterback and hasn't run those systems. I don't remember Jalen Milroe's offensive system in high school, so I don't have that off the top of my head. So
well, you should.
Yeah, my bad.
You didn't go to his biscuit place or anything?
Yeah, just Missouri's. By the way, Carson Beck, just quietly, just 350 a week. Just quietly, we're just going to destroy people. Destroyed Florida last week, of course, after giving up the touchdown. I was wrong about that, by the way. I thought Florida would keep it close for most of that game and then lose easily in the fourth quarter. No. They lost easily in the first and second quarter. They quit a lot earlier than I thought. So credit to Georgia for doing a good job in that game.
I mean, they couldn't do anything after that first drive.
All right, what do you want to add to the Missouri matchup here? What is the piece? What is the player? What is the scheme that allows Missouri to 15.5 point favorite? All right. Are they 15.5, more than 2 touchdowns on the road?
Mm-hmm.
What's the piece that makes the difference for Missouri?
I think Luther Burden taking over because I think he'll be the best player on the field now that Brock Bowers is unavailable, and maybe some, I don't want to say nothing dirty, but I would think there's got to be some kind of chip on their shoulder, what have you, some edge to Mizzou's defense for Dominic Lovett switching sides. And I think he'd be a hell of a lot more productive at Missouri than he's being in Athens. So, maybe that brings a little fire to the Missouri's defense, which has not been great. They've been very underwhelming this year, but they've gotten better the last couple of weeks. So, they got to have a little chip to their. I think this is what we do, and you accuse me of this every damn week, so I'm going to accuse you of it, Braden. People, they get too hyped over like, oh my God, they whipped the shit out of Florida. Well, Florida's not good. They're probably going to be 5th in the East, and we're sitting here saying, well, Georgia can't be touched because they got a hell of a lot better Missouri team coming in. Ole Miss is better than Florida, and playing in Neyland Stadium, I think is. Okay. I think that's tougher than facing Florida and Jacksonville.
I don't disagree with anything you just said.
But
nor have I ever disagreed with anything you just said.
Well, that's good. That's good.
I also think saying a team that's going to win, if a team wins 6 or 7 games in the SEC as a team, but by definition they don't suck. They're not awful by definition. They're average. I think what happens in sports media is that you have to say one thing or the other. It's got to be one extreme or the other. Oh, they're fucking amazing. Oh, they're terrible.
They got their ass kicked by Kentucky.
They're an average football team. I think I said if Florida finishes, and by the way, Liquid Flame said this. I was joking about the quitting. I don't think they like physically quit the game. I think Georgia was just better. I agree with your point. But if Florida finishes with 6 wins, beat Arkansas this week, and if they finish with 7 wins, like by definition, they are not a bad football team. They're not a good football team. They're an average football team.
You
I
sound
think
like a Kentucky fan. Happy with 7.
No, I'm sick and tired of stupid ass media making everything have to be black or white when the real world of college football is in the middle. The real world is gray. The real world is in this middle where 1/4. Look at Tennessee. I'm going to spend some time on Tennessee today too. Look at Tennessee. The 4th down, going for it in their own side of the field on offense 2 weeks in a row in the second half in critical situations. One of them is a stop because a guy gets a good push on a defensive tackle, and the other one is a first down because he gets the defensive lineman to jump, and it changes the entire outcome of the game. And I'm not going to sit here and like overreact to literally the exact same play happening inches differently and suggest that means that one thing is elite and one thing is terrible. And I think that's stupid. I think their performance against Kentucky and one of the most masterful quarters of football I've ever seen out of a Tennessee offense, and especially Joe Milton. A Tennessee offense quarterbacked by Joe Milton.
See, now you're overreacting again.
It was those 2 drives were masterful. Offensive line, running game, play calling, manage the clock perfectly, critical situations, 4th down calls. You had the lead. You needed the long drive. You executed. You managed the clock perfect. It was a masterful offensive performance by Joe Milton, the offensive line, the running game, Josh Heupel. That to me is a signal of what we said on the show last week, which is I'm seeing maturity in the Tennessee program. I'm seeing growth. I'm seeing positivity. And all you said was, oh, fucking Tennessee sucks. They can't beat Alabama, blah, 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 blah. No, that's not how the world works. It's more complicated than that.
They suck too. They beat Kentucky. Kentucky's awful. Come on now. Now, if they beat Missouri or Georgia, awful. I may change my mind.
But you just did the exact thing I'm complaining about. Like, oh, they're gonna win 7 games this year, but they're awful. Awful. Like, no. You know who's awful? Vanderbilt.
Wait, if Tennessee wins 7 games, you think that's good?
No, that's not what we've.
You just said.
You said Kentucky. You said Kentucky's awful.
Oh, if they win,
they're not awful.
7 games. Let's look at the schedule. Everyone.
Vanderbilt is awful.
Oh wow, they beat Ball State.
Vanderbilt is
Eastern
awful.
Kentucky, Akron, Vanderbilt.
God. Can we talk about Georgia, Missouri again?
This is an elite. Yeah, what am I talking about? This is. Can they extend this guy?
See what you just did. You just did it again. You keep doing the exact thing I'm asking you not to do. Stop using elite and stop using awful. Just use they're average.
I'd fire them all. They need to fire them all.
Well, I know that's how you get clicks. It's fine. Here's the deal. Georgia, I think personnel wise, outlasts Missouri. Unfortunately, I think Missouri gives them a hell of a fucking run. I think the fact that they played really well last year against Georgia actually helps both teams. I think it gives them confidence for 2 weeks, Missouri, and I think it gives Georgia like a heightened sense of awareness. And I think they are truly focused on this game as the most important game. It's why somebody on that SEC podcast stole my shit this week when they said that the toughest game Georgia's going to play is Ole Miss, which I've been saying on this show for the entire summer. And I think Georgia's the compounding effort of Georgia having to play 4 straight games against 4 pretty decent teams, some and varying degrees of quality, is going to lead them to get got at one of those times. Maybe it's this week against Missouri. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a smart analysis. But if they lose, fire them. They're terrible.
I fucking hate you sometimes. Oh, God. Okay, so you have no more thoughtful and nuanced analysis of the Missouri-Georgia game.
I think also just the fact, you just look at these comments, that are non-Missouri people, and I see them all the time. They played nobody. They suck. They're about to drop their last.
About Missouri?
Oh, yeah. I see this every day. They're going to lose to Georgia, Tennessee, Florida.
Oh, my God. Those are people that don't watch college football then, apparently.
Well, I know, but the point being is they got something to prove this week, and even
1,000,000%.
To not just the SEC fans, but to the nation. I don't want to sit here in moral victory, but if let's say they take it to the 4th quarter and lose by 3 or something like that, I think they gain a ton of respect, and they'll probably win out if they're that good. And 10-2 that's a hell of a year for Missouri.
I think 10-2 is a hell of a year for Missouri. I agree. JD, that's about as nice a compliment as anyone's paid, so I'll take that. I don't. Tennessee is still fascinating to me with Missouri coming up in 2 weeks. I still think that's Tennessee's got UConn this week. They're a 36-point favorite, whatever. They'll get to 7 wins. Our bet, by the way, might hinge on that Missouri game.
Yeah,
the Tennessee gamble that we have might hinge on that that Missouri game.
Or that Georgia game. If I'm not a believer in Tennessee, clearly. You know, I keep picking them to lose. I keep hell, I thought they'd lose A&M even. But and I certainly didn't think that first half against Alabama, I didn't see that coming. But if Joe Milton keeps getting better, if guys like Thornton can, you know, maybe they figure that out because he's been non-existent.
Does it look like he's running does it look like he's running on a beach all the time? Like it looks like he's Thornton. He looks like he's running on sand. I don't know why. I just feel like he should be faster.
I've not even seen him. The only time I've seen him was when he's dropping a pass until last week.
He was
you know what I mean?
Kentucky. He was great.
Right. So he emerged there. You know, I'm just saying if that's all Tennessee needs, you know, of course, the quarterback completing 85% of his passes, that's all they need, and they could win every damn game. If he completes 85% of their passes against Georgia, they're going to beat Georgia. Now, that ain't going to happen. But
this is what Milroe's doing too, and this is what I find interesting about the offense, and this is why I think the program growth is the most important story with Tennessee, is that they are doing it in different ways. It is not just Joe Milton trying to go down the field 48 times a game. If they only need him to go 16 to 20. That's the same thing Milroe has been doing for Bama for most of the season. Like, 12 of 17, 13 of 14. Like, they are doing it in different ways, and they're doing it with Wright and Sampson. They're doing it like that play call from Heupel with a delayed release from Sampson down the seam. That is a very unusual route for a running back to run. It was a perfect play call on a critical situation, and Milton executed it. Like, he's doing it unlike I've seen him do it before, and it was the first half against Bama as well. And it was coaching mixed with Milton, mixed with the running game. It's evolving. And to show that you are evolving, to me, is a huge positive sign for Tennessee. Big picture, forget the wins and losses this year, but that's a huge sign. And the result is a win on the road against Kentucky with, like, workman-like ease, you know? And then you got, if they play like that, they can give Georgia a game. If they play like that, they can beat Missouri. So, yeah. That's that's things I probably would not have said about Joe Milton 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, sixth year, he's finally putting it together. Well, 6.5, 5.5, 6.5, the final stretch of his senior season. It's good to see because there's not many guys that have actually done that.
Well, and JD says as Milton has had to run more when nothing is open downfield. I would argue that there are far more designed runs in the offense, which is yet another evolution because he's not like a speed guy like Milroe. You have to design power football for Milton. You have to give him time to get to the spot, and that's what they're doing with this offense. And that's all Heupel.
I like to call him Cam Newton before he got the bag. You know, like who?
Like slow Cam Newton.
Remember before he went to Auburn? You know who was Cam Newton? He was just a hyped guy that we never saw. Then he got that bag. He was incredible. That's who Joe Milton has been.
Okay, yes, I agree with you. Bo brings up a good point because I want to get to Bama LSU. Says, don't you both think that Milroe's success has a lot to do with the 10 5-star players around him? I think you can say that about every player at Georgia. You can say that about everybody at Texas A&M, except for you can't. LSU's not much different. Ohio State. It doesn't mean that quarterbacks are perfect. I think Milroe has shown that he's got flaws. He's not a great intermediate passer. He's not a great third. Once you get to the third read on the offense, he's not particularly great. But his burst. Man, the dude is electric. It's Michael Vick type of quickness. And that's why I want to see Tommy Rees design some runs. But look at his receiving core. That's not a bunch of five. Those guys aren't playing like 5-star athletes. Those guys aren't 5-star studs. There's no Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. Those guys aren't.
I think they were all mostly 5 stars.
You can be a 5-star recruit, but if you're not a 5-star player, then you're not a 5-star. It's not.
Yeah, well, that's on their coaches to develop them, I would think.
Sure, but the argument isn't Milroe's success based on the talent around him, and you cannot say that about Alabama's offensive line or receiving core this year. You can't.
Yeah, no, I give him all the credit for. It's got to be tough being Alabama's quarterback, particularly when you come out struggling early and they bench your ass and you almost lose to South Florida. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people would cave. A lot of people would cave under that, and not only did he not cave, he's gotten better. I bet the Alabama fans on here know who this is, but Blake Barnett. Who in the hell's that guy? Well, he's
David Cornwell.
I don't think Cornwell ever started though, did he?
I know.
But Blake Barnett started over Jalen Hurts, and who the hell's that guy? He sucked, and then we never heard from him again. You know what I mean? That could have been Jalen Milroe, but
they signed
the other way.
they signed like the same 5-star SAE like out of the frat house like 4 years in a row. It was like Blake Barnett, David Cornwell, Cooper Bateman. Like it was just like it's just like they're all a bunch of bros out of the same frat house, and none of them actually hit. None of them were any good. They had to all go somewhere else. And the 4-star running back is now playing in Super Bowls.
Yeah, I mean it's wild.
So I think Milroe's down the field yards per attempt efficiency. I have no faith that LSU is going to cover anybody. It's going to come down to the defensive line for LSU pressuring Milroe, taking him out of the game. They're going to have to get to him before he can get the ball out, which is hard to do. He's good down the field, and LSU is not. And on the other side, Daniels has to do stuff off script, because while their receivers are elite, and this is the right time to use the word elite, Neighbors and Thomas are elite. They are elite. At least Alabama's dudes, they may pick up a lot of penalties. They may not make the play, but like they're in the play. Like LSU guys aren't even in the picture sometimes. Like when the ball's in the air. So I have more faith in Alabama's guys being around the play and making some plays. Like, isn't Arnold number 3, I think, with the green mouthpiece for Alabama? Like he gives up some plays, he gives up some penalties, but he also makes a lot of plays too.
See, I think this has got to be a Logan Diggs game, because I think they're gonna.
You're big on him.
They're gonna blitz Jane Daniels like crazy, I would think, or shade the coverage towards those receivers. So I think someone else has got to step up and sum up and make these plays. And I think that's the best way to combat a lot of this is, screens and draws and things like of that nature. So I think this has got to be a Logan Diggs game for LSU. I really do. With that offensive line.
I mean, even Tennessee couldn't run the ball against them, though. Tennessee's offensive running game is about as good as LSU's. I mean, they don't have the same dudes on the outside to threaten safeties to back off and stuff. But like I don't know. Tennessee's running game's pretty good, and Alabama punked them in the second half. Yeah. And Junkyard, I think you're right. You said something about if someone figures out to cover Burton and spy Milroe, they won't go far. I mean, Alabama's it's November and they're in first place and they're undefeated in the conference. So I think they've gone.
And LSU's got no one that can cover.
And LSU's got nobody. Here's the thing though. If you do put Perkins in a spy role, you might be taking him out of a bunch of running plays, perhaps, or some other situational stuff in the flats or on the blitz packages. But I bet you he could be a spy on Jalen Milroe. Very few people could do that. And I bet you he could.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different athlete, but he did a hell of a job against Bryce Young last year as a true freshman.
And the game against KJ Jefferson was insane.
Yeah.
So Bama's favored, but only slightly. It's like one of the lowest point spreads in the history of the game. Georgia's favored by more than 2 touchdowns. Are we coming away? I mean, if they both win, they largely clinch the division. I know Ole Miss in theory would still have a shot, but unlikely with Georgia coming up on the road. It does feel like this is division championship Saturday, which makes for I was out of town last weekend. I went up to I went to watch Ohio State and scout the Buckeyes over the weekend. And by the way, they do not look on offense. They have a really, really good defense. They're kind of like Bama. They've got an elite receiver, but
were you stealing their signals for Michigan?
Yes, I was. That's true. I got a ticket from Harbaugh. That's how I got into the game.
Nice.
That's a good point. No, it's my point is I was like, I'm working this past weekend. I got, kids soccer tournaments and birthday parties. Not this Saturday. This Saturday is get the hell out of the way, guys. Dad's got the TV. We got Ole Miss A&M to watch, which is a really underrated game nationally. And then you got an SEC East Division Championship and an SEC West Division Championship. Get out of the way. And then you got must wins everywhere else, by the way. Like Kentucky, Mississippi State, Auburn, Arkansas, Florida.
Did you see what old Kiffin said this week? Is he angling for that A&M job?
I don't think I'd want to coach in College Station. I think you can win this. I'm not going to bring up the coach in Kentucky, but I think you have way more upside at Texas A&M than you do at Ole Miss. But I would not want to coach at College Station. There's a lot of cooks in that kitchen that try to get in the way and tell you what to do. And at Oxford, if you're good, they get out of your way. In Oxford, if you're a good coach, they'll let you do your job and they'll leave you alone. There's a reason Joey Freshwater likes it in Oxford.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my opinion. What about you?
That's true. That's very true. I shouldn't say what I was about to say, so I'm not going to say it. But yeah, no, that point's well made. I don't know how they already got a dog down there in College Station. They ain't got room for Juice down there.
Yeah, there's old Juice. All right, I guess this is very, very boring, but I got Georgia and Alabama. I think if LSU wins, they have a legitimate playoff type of resume. So I think if LSU win, Bo, I am not confusing them. They are the same. Texas and Texas A&M both have too many cooks, too many oil barons or whatever. LSU would have a really good case for a Heisman Trophy quarterback and Jaden Daniels if they win, because it's probably going to be because of him. If they win, they have a really good case that when they play Georgia as a 2-loss team, and if they were to beat Georgia to be a playoff team, the only 2-loss playoff team ever, they would have a really good case at that point too. We could see some unprecedented stuff in college football, but it has to start this weekend, and I think it has to be with the quarterback being special. He has to do the Heisman thing, which I don't like saying as a voter, but you know, Lamar Jackson against Florida State, or Caleb Williams against Notre Dame, or, you know, pick the guy who did the thing and goes for 400 plus yards and 6 touchdowns or whatever. Like, I think that's how if they're going to win, I think he has to be special and off script probably.
Wait, so if LSU wins in Tuscaloosa, tall task, not saying it happens, but if they do, would you have any faith that they could beat Georgia in Atlanta?
Gives me more faith. Can I tell me how Georgia looks in the next 3 games?
They lose one.
Then absolutely, yeah. I mean, Georgia's still favored probably in that game, don't you think? Like 7, 8 points, 9 points.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a 1-loss Georgia and a 2-loss LSU in Atlanta, then I think obviously that would mean that LSU is good enough to go on the road and beat Bama's defense, and Georgia's not good enough to run the table this year. So yeah, absolutely.
Hey, just for the love of God, if they block a kick, LSU, if Georgia blocks one, just pick it up, fall on it, do something. Don't just don't just let them walk into the damn end zone. You know what?
Just don't touch it, right? If you block a kick, don't touch it. That's how you get coached, right? Don't touch it.
Yeah.
So. No, okay. I'm not. I don't want to. Okay, I'm not going to address Bo. I love you, Bo, but there's no chance that Shane Beamer used signs that are on every single game tape. These signs are on every single game tape that every coach has. Every single tape has these signs on it. It's all. I don't understand why this is that big of a deal, other than that Jim Harbaugh is a lightning rod character that everybody likes to hate.
What is the meltdown level? Because I'm seeing it from these dogs. I mean, they can't even handle me saying they may lose a game. They get so damn mad. What's the meltdown level if they just lose a game? Because hell, we're not. If they lose a game, they're still winning the East. They're still favored to win the SEC. They're still probably the favorite to win the national title. Why
doesn't it depend on who they lose?
So butthurt.
Doesn't it depend on who they lose to? Like if they lose to Missouri, no, because Ole Miss doesn't help them. Losing to Tennessee, that's still not enough. They'd have to lose twice. The only one that matters is Missouri,
right?
So then Missouri still has to run the table.
You said it yourself, like they're a huge favorite. So I guess I'm really looking at Tennessee and Ole Miss, which both would be upsets, admittedly. But let's say they lose one of those.
Okay,
not Missouri. I mean,
they're still going to win the East and be in the SEC championship game,
right? So
as a 1-loss team playing for a spot in the playoff.
So I mean, why is and hell, Ole Miss is pretty good. Tennessee's improving.
I agree.
I don't know.
Two tough teams, tough games.
I guess I'm just confused about why.
So you do content to elicit a response, and then are confused when it gets a response.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, they nearly lost to Auburn. They're like, we can't be beat. You know, I mean, South Carolina gave them a good game.
I've not heard that.
These are two of the worst teams in the SEC.
I have not heard that from Georgia people.
You need to get more Georgia fans.
I did an interview on another show with the drummer of the Wild Feathers, great rock and roll band. Go check him out. He's a huge Georgia fan, known him for a long time. And I asked him before the Florida game. My first question was like, "How you feeling?" And he was like shaking. His head was he was like, "I can't. I'm so nervous about the game." He's like, "We're not very, like." It's the exact opposite. Like I have not heard. I think Georgia is getting better every single week they play football. And I think the pieces outside of Bowers, the pieces are coming to get. Ladd McConkey had a huge game. The defense played great. I think they are getting better and better. It does not mean they're better than last year, and it does not mean they're going to win the national championship. But the quarterback has been in complete control for largely the entire season, guys. Like he has been the most consistent quarterback maybe in the conference outside of Jaden Daniels, I guess. Maybe Brady Cook. I don't know. Like he's just nobody talks about Carson Beck. Nobody talks about him. He's just consistently 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, another dub. Easy. Like it's just nobody even talks about him. So I don't think Georgia fans think they're perfect, but they technically are perfect and number 1 right now. So
that's true. Well, for another couple hours, they are number 1. You're right.
Oh yeah. So you're picking Missouri. So how about this? Bottle of whiskey.
No, I'm talking about the playoff rankings. I don't think
we're not. I don't acknowledge that those exist until the last one at the end of the year. Those don't matter.
I'm just saying, for a couple more hours, they're number 1.
No,
I'll give them that.
They'll be number 1. They'll be number 1. I hope you guys listened to me at the beginning of the season when I said the best gamble on the Heisman board, which is a stupid award to gamble on, but if you're going to do it, the best gamble is Carson Beck. And turns out I was right. So,
I do remember that. Yeah, that was another. Man, you're on fire with these takes.
So many takes.
People should listen to you more.
All they do is tell me how much I suck, though, Mike.
I've never said that. Not publicly.
Yeah, only privately on the group chats. I'm going to pull up the odds right now.
Should Carson be getting more Heisman love? They want to know.
Okay, there's 2 ways to answer that question. The traditional Heisman Trophy winners and candidates are generally the best quarterbacks on the best teams. But guys that are great, like nobody's won the award that's like average. That's never. People are always like, oh, it's just the best player on the best team. That happened to like Mark Ingram in 2009. That's like the only time that's ever actually happened. But I do think that if you're gambling, which again is about value and about trying to find a guy that's not the favorite to win it at the beginning of the year, I thought, look, Georgia's probably going to be undefeated. They're probably going to put up big numbers, and Carson Beck's been better. I think he's been better than anything I've expected. I think he's been better than most anything anybody else has expected, honestly. He's the most consistent piece of that team.
He's getting better every week too.
And Michael's right. Like if they get into a shootout with Missouri and he's great, if they get into a shootout with Jackson Dart and Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and he's great and win that game, and he gets into a shootout with Tennessee and that offense in Neyland Stadium on the road and he's great, he's already won the game against Auburn. He was electric in the first half against Kentucky, which is the only half the national media watched. They didn't watch the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's put the resume together. The second answer to that is I don't like that quarterbacks get all the love. I don't as a general stance. I wish the Heisman. I wish the top 5 in the Heisman was like Dallas Turner, Harold Perkins, and like James Pierce. You know what I mean? Like I wish the award was more like that. So, no, I did not. Crimson King, settle down. I said what happened is that Mark Ingram was the best player on the best team, and it's the only time I can think of that took place. Because I think one of the big complaints about the Heisman Trophy is, it just always goes to the best player on the best team. And I think the only time that happened was Mark Ingram. Otherwise, Tim Tebow won it. Tim Tebow won it with 4 losses or whatever. Lamar Jackson won it with 4 losses. Robert Griffin won it with 3 losses. I mean, these guys, it almost always goes to an elite. Caleb Williams lost multiple times. Didn't even win his conference championship last year. Like, I don't think it's – I mean, do you agree with me or –
I stopped paying attention a long time ago. But, yeah, no, Tim Tebow –
to the person doing a show with you?
Yeah.
Very fucking rude, you asshole.
He should have definitely won over Mark Ingram, I thought. They basically just gave it to whoever won that game for some reason. I mean –
Well, they were both undefeated, right, in the SEC championship game?
Yeah, but who cares? I mean, Tim Tebow is a legend. Mark Ingram, I don't remember a single thing he did in college.
He won a national title.
Did he win it?
Mark Ingram's pretty good.
Nah.
Let's see here. Carson Beck is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's 8th at plus 3,000. It's pretty good odds. If I was putting a bet down, that's pretty good odds.
Yeah. No, that's good. Those are great odds.
The guy I did see in person this weekend, and he's better in person than I expected. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the fucking truth. Like that dude. Like I was down at field level watching him warm up. Like that dude is the truth. Like I would draft that guy in the top 5, no problem. He's plus what is he, plus 1,200?
Maybe we just have the NFL scouts give out the Heisman. How's that?
Yeah, sure. Jaden Daniels is 3rd right now at plus 400. I would take plus 3,000 over plus 400 in 2 seconds, but that's just the gambler in me. So
I wouldn't.
Do you gamble?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, you want to talk Ole Miss, or do you want to talk?
Yeah, I think that's one hell of a game. I've been calling it the undercard. That's almost a disservice, but it's just because there's these 2 other monster games in the SEC. But it's a tricky game, man, because I think if you shut down Ole Miss on the ground, I think they're very beatable. And the only team that's run on A&M is Tennessee. And yeah,
Alabama did it a little bit in the second half, but yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, I mean, in A&M they showed something. I mean, I thought they were going to cave against South Carolina. I really did. When they got down 7-0 early kick, I was like, "Oh God, here we go."
It was not a pretty start.
Jimbo's done, but they responded. They adjusted. They made the plays, and they more or less dominated for the rest of the game. So credit to them.
South Carolina it took South Carolina to I believe it was the last play of the 3rd quarter for them to get into positive rushing yards.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if A&M can play like that, they're gonna make us a ball game.
God. And if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. We've said that a lot about Texas A&M, big guy.
Well, they just won, didn't they? And who have they lost to? They lost to Bama, Tennessee. I mean, these are elite of elite teams here.
So see what I'm saying when you say who's awful? South Carolina's not very. South Carolina's bad, and guess what? Their record says they're bad. Their record isn't 5-3, which is above average. Their record is 2-6.
The best 2-6 in the SEC East, though.
Hot damn!
I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's hot damn.
That's pretty impressive.
No,
they got one hell of a quarterback, but
nobody blames their players for a 2-6 season like Shane Beamer does. No one, no one does.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard. I don't pick A&M to win games anymore. So that's holding me back. You know,
Kentucky fan ruins my entire argument. We are average, or actually, he makes my argument. They are average. They're not awful. They're average.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd week in a row I'm going to say this about Ole Miss, which is, on the road against Auburn, for a program that is competing for championships, those are games you're supposed to go win. We've talked about that. For a program that doesn't consistently win championships, but has like the chance at a great season this year, same thing with Missouri. You got to handle your business in these types of situations. Missouri went on the road and beat Kentucky after going down 14-0. Ole Miss did it against Auburn. This is one of those moments in the Shea Patterson Bowl where Ole Miss has to hold serve at home, a 3-point favorite against a team that has a strength like the defensive line. I still don't think A&M. I'll take Judkins and Dart and the noon kickoff and the Grove and Ole Miss, but this is a proof. Like, show us that you're not looking ahead to Georgia. Show us that you want to stay with. If LSU wins that game against Bama, Ole Miss is right there to win the West with one loss. It's a 3-way tie at that point.
How about this? Is there a more, like hateful bad blood than Kiffin Jimbo in the SEC? That's kind of what I want to talk about. I'm trying to think if there's more.
I mean, isn't Jimbo with everybody? Like Jimbo and Nick.
I think this is worse somehow, some way. I mean,
he's taken really passive aggressive shots at Jimbo Fisher the entire week.
For 3 years he's done it.
It's like, well, they're really getting hard. They're competing really hard to get to bowl eligibility.
Beamer,
it's the most passive aggressive shit I've ever heard.
Is up there, but it's not on this level.
I think Beamer Stoops is higher. Because I think Stoops. I mean, both guys come from like these long football families, and I think Stoops truly does not like that Shane Beamer does all the things that he does. You know what I mean? Like it's against my father's coaching upbringing, blah, 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 blah.
Right. No, that's a good one. Can we think of any others?
Tim Sett's a good one. Kiffin, which is a lot of these will be Kiffin, by the way. Tim Dodge says, "Hey Tim, how are you, buddy? Kiffin versus Tennessee. I don't think Kiffin gives two shits about Tennessee. I think he likes to troll on his keyboard. Yeah. I think Tennessee fans need to let it the fuck go. I think that's what Tennessee fans need to do, because like everything with Tennessee fans, they hold on to stuff for too long, and it's too stupid.
Never.
Waste of time. They had more penalties, by the way, against Kentucky than they did against Alabama. Just want to point that out.
They play so rarely. I don't even consider that, to be honest with you. Kiffin and Tennessee. Yeah. Now maybe
and if he was such a bad, terrible coach, then why was everybody pissed off that he left? Like, I don't understand the whole Kiffin thing. Like the whole Kiffin Tennessee thing makes no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like chasing down a family as they're trying to leave town is fucking stupid. It's stupid. I'm a Tennessee alumni. It was stupid. Let it go. Let it go. The refs didn't cost you the game against Bama.
You know who's not on this list, but will probably be there soon is Hugh Freeze versus somebody.
I hope so. I hope so.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's gonna have beef with somebody over something.
I think this is what I want from Josh Heupel, but it'll never happen because he's like too nice of a guy. But like Hugh Freeze and Josh Heupel are like the opposite personality types. Like Josh Heupel, and I think this is partly why they've been good in the last couple of years, and why he's been good is that he's just a guy, regular human that like is authentic and real and talks to his players outside of the facility, and is just a genuinely good human. There you go. That's 2 years from now. Freeze versus Yellowwood.
I think that's the guy he wanted. I think that's why he's down there.
But if he doesn't win enough games, Yellowwood changes his mind real fast, along with a few other folks down there.
Yeah,
on the plains. I don't know. That's a good question. Billy Napier's pretty unassuming. Clark Lee is around.
Yep.
I don't think anybody's going to get into it with Josh Heupel, honestly. Like, they're just not, because he's just too nice of a guy. I think Kiffin, there's a lot of layers with Kiffin and Freeze, because Freeze got the job after they tried to take Kiffin.
Right.
And the honeymoon between Ole Miss fans and Lane Kiffin is kind of over. It's more of a business relationship now.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, I'm a very good talker, but yeah, I did play a lot of football, actually. So,
and predictor.
A lot of good takes this year. A lot of good takes.
Mm-hmm.
So many good tapes. You want me to go full Al Bundy, Mike?
Yeah.
Back when I was a 5A all region wide receiver in Middle Tennessee, 1999. Goddamn right, I played ball. All right. Who else? Jimbo Kiffin's pretty good. Stoops, Beamer, Freeze. I mean, if Saban was around long enough, it would be Saban.
And also, if we let's assume Dan Mullen gets hired again in here. I mean, he'll have bad blood with a number of these guys pretty quick too.
So, new Arkansas head coach Dan Mullen versus Hugh Freeze. Is that what you're saying?
So, something like that, you know.
Everybody's fired except for the guy that's 0-6.
I mean, I don't know that anybody wants to admit this, but I think Dan Mullen is perfect for Mississippi State.
I agree. Why wouldn't he be? He's the greatest coach in Mississippi State history.
Yeah. I don't know. He thinks he's better. You know, he tried to get a different job every year. But I think that's perfect.
Isn't that human? But isn't that human nature? Everybody in the world is trying to get a better job. Like,
I don't think so.
How dare you in America try to make more money and have a better job? How dare you?
Like Heupel,
capitalist fuck.
He could have propelled himself to another. Maybe I don't know. But that's one. Kirby.
He was a defensive coordinator at won championships at Florida, or offensive coordinator at won championships at Florida. Of course, he was going to take the Florida job. He'd be. I
mean, surely you know this, right? He tried to get Miami. He tried to get Michigan.
He had the Tennessee job and he turned it down last second because of the Florida job.
Right, but that was the same. I wouldn't hold that against him because that was the same cycle. I'm saying literally every year he was trying to get, and then
what's your problem with that?
Even when he did well at Florida, he tried to get an NFL job.
What's your problem with that?
I think it's proven that he's not good enough to at a place where they demand you recruit at a high level. That's what I'm saying. Mississippi State's perfect.
I agree.
Those fans are not going to be sitting here saying, well, by God, why didn't you get a top 10 class?
Right. You know what I mean? Exactly like Kentucky fans with Mark Stoops. When you are, it's not your fault if you are promoted beyond the point of competency. Like, that's why that's a thing. Like just because you got the good promotion and more money and the better job is not your fault. Every human being on this planet would take the job in whatever line of work you're in. Now, I think there are certain coaches who are wired in a certain way, who are in the minority, who stay at one place for like 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they never win national championships. They're not ever the guys that win national championships. It's Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech. It's Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin. It's Bill Snyder at Kansas State. It's Kyle Whittingham at Utah. These guys are there for 20 years, 25 years. They're the greatest coach in the history of that school, and they never win a national championship. And they're okay with that. Everyone else is wired differently. Everyone else is wired to like eat the young and win a championship, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so.
I don't know why you're faulting a guy for wanting to make more money and have a better job.
I don't know. Was I?
I think so. I do think Mississippi State's a good job for Dan Mullen.
Yeah.
I agree. He's perfect there. You can recruit just enough.
I think old Junkyard nailed it here.
That's probably fair.
Jimmy Sexton.
He's also the reason Hugh Freeze is in Auburn, so he's the reason everybody's everywhere.
Yeah. And why Drink's making insane amount for what he's accomplished.
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy Sexton was at the press conference for Hugh Freeze, like looking over at reporters to like keep him quiet during Baby Billy's introductory speech, his sermon.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty good. I think, God, I was gonna have another bad take there, another bad opinion before Jimmy Sexton distracted me with his large billfold and all of his money. I think Mullen at Mississippi State. You can find a 3-star quarterback and develop him to the offensive player that you want him to be, which is Dak Prescott, Nick Fitzgerald, you name it. Every now and then,
someone that LSU thinks is a tight end. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, hey, Pat White was a 3-star from Alabama that Nick Saban thought was a corner, and turns out he's a Heisman caliber quarterback that reinvented the offense at West Virginia. I think you can recruit just enough. It's okay if you recruit like 13th in the SEC.
Yeah,
because you're going to be top 25 nationally. And yes, RIP to friend of the pod, Mike Leach.
But also, hey, I know you're on a spiel here, but also this, and this is always gets overlooked in these recruiting talks. The way recruiting works now, and I've never done it, so I'm not sitting here like mocking the recruiting services. But what those people do is they go to Atlanta because you can cover 20 schools in a night. Nashville, there's a dozen schools you can do. Texas, on and on and on. Are they going down the back roads 3 hours in Mississippi to see some lineman that people are saying, you got to keep your eye on this guy? No.
Are you talking about the recruiting service people, or are you talking about the graduate assistant making $25,000 a year for like Alabama?
I'm talking about the recruiting services.
Okay.
They're not, they just don't have the resources.
Sorry, I wasn't listening to you on your own show there for a second.
They're not sending someone 2 hours down a back road for one guy that may or may not be good. But, at Mississippi State, they can do that. And my God, this guy here is quality, and we could develop him in 3 years. He could be an SEC starter. So yeah, Mississippi State never has a good recruiting ranking. And that's because they lose these head-to-head battles to LSU and Alabama, as you'd expect. But that doesn't mean they don't have talent either. You know what I mean? And I thought Dan Mullen and his staff did a hell of a job finding these guys and developing them.
I think while access to tape and scouting reports and the interaction between coaching staff and recruiting service, as somebody who worked at a recruiting service and drove through the middle of Texas into Madisonville, Texas to watch Chris Whaley, to talk to his coach and interview him personally. I drove to Lufkin, Texas, which is like 2 hours north of Houston, to go watch Jamarcus McFarland, big-time prospect there. Like, this was the Russell Shepard, Garrett Gilbert class, I think, and I was one of those guys that drove a rental car through the middle of godforsaken nowhere to get to these towns. I think if you are good enough and a big enough prospect, your tape is so available that, yes, absolutely, these services go find you. This is why Mississippi State has never won the division or won a SEC championship, I should say. So, sure, there's misevaluations on players all the time. I mean, NFL scouts and GMs get paid millions of dollars and they fuck it up every year. So I don't, misevaluation happens. But if you're good enough to get a Power 5 offer, you've been tracked, you've been talked to. These recruiting services make too much money off of it. And oh, by the way, this is the dirty secret that nobody wants to tell you, of course, which I think everybody knows. is that all these coaching staffs are in bed with all these services. Like they're all best friends.
So how did
they all know each other.
Judkins get a 3-star ranking?
I mean, I said there's misevaluations all the time. Also, if you think about it, there's 300,000 senior football players every year. Maybe 300 of them will get 4 stars. So they try to keep it very exclusive to make sure you're the best of the best, and you miss all the time. It's baked into the business, but they are statistically more accurate today than they've ever been. And I worked for them, as you can tell by all those names I rattled off. I worked for it. I covered recruiting a long time ago. Russell Shepard recruiting era.
Was that the guy that went to LSU?
It was a quarterback at Cy Ridge in Houston, and he went to LSU and he turned into a receiver, I think.
Yeah.
Interesting cat. Yeah, Andrew makes another great point. 17-year-olds get better at very different rates and times. And there's no question about that. Like, I don't mean this to be like my football playing career, but like I was 165 pounds. I'm 6'1" and not that now. I was 6'1", 165 pounds as a junior, and I was like the 3rd string receiver who caught like 10 passes for the whole season. And then I worked my ass off, and I was 195 pounds the next year. And my only offers were like Tennessee Tech, Austin Peay, Middle Tennessee State. And so but that's because I had no film. I had no tape. This was 1999. There was no access to, these portals where you put in your film and you go, and like you develop at such a different rate, and it's totally different. So offensive line, especially.
They didn't even have the internet back then, did they?
Barely. There was no smartphones and no social media, though, which is fucking crazy if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like,
thank God.
Yeah, nobody wants to watch a 4-7-8 wide receiver run down the field. No, so I think they know about these guys. Like, I mean, Dre Kirkpatrick was from Gadsden, Alabama. Like 5-star, I think. So like they find the 5 stars. Like they find them.
Well, the 5 stars, yeah, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of 3 stars that Mississippi State and Ole Miss sign that.
Sure.
Just because Alabama didn't want them doesn't mean they're not any good.
There's a lot of 3 stars that Alabama signs. D'Amico Ryans, right? Famous 3-star recruit. D'Amico Ryans, I believe. Was Patrick Willis was a 3-star, right? Ole Miss?
I think if you commit to Bama, they just give you a 4. They just hand you that 4-star.
Yeah, I think it's more like Nebraska that does that. But Nebraska, you also have to know which sites make which services more money. That's another one you got to know. Because I don't think that happens, but there are absolutely business interests for different, On3 Rivals, Scout, ESPN, or whatever. They have different subscriptions for different websites. So keep an eye on that. All right, I'm taking Georgia at home. I like Missouri to play well into the 4th quarter, and then just not enough. Just not enough. It's just not enough. I like. I don't. Tell me if you're picking. I know you make picks later, but this is 59 minutes in. Are you taking Alabama to win, or are you taking LSU?
I haven't decided. I'll tell you, I am.
You've been picking LSU. You've been picking LSU.
UConn. I'll tell you that though. I do have that one nailed down.
You're going to spend 9 months picking one thing and then change 2 days before the game.
Yeah, I think that's how you have to do it. Everything you say in the preseason is not. I always thought it was stupid when people were like,
No, you're right.
I picked X and X in the preseason, so I got to pick them in this. No, you go off information that you have that changes day by day.
I agree. I agree with you. So roll damn tide. Best in the West. 1-loss team going into SEC championship game with the right to make the playoff.
Better than Georgia?
Dynasty's dead.
You think Bama's better than Georgia? That's crazy.
No, I didn't say that.
You just said that. You said the hottest team in the SEC. I'm pretty sure.
1-loss team into the SEC championship. No, I'm not picking them to beat Georgia. I'm picking.
What if Ole Miss beats Georgia? Is Alabama still are they still the hottest 1-loss team?
Man, that'd be so much fun. Well, yes, because if Alabama's continually winning and one of those wins is a ass whipping of the team you're asking me about, then yes.
No, but they're hotter now. They'd be hotter in December.
No,
I think Ole Miss would be hotter.
Nah.
Because Alabama, who the hell are they beating right here? They're beating LSU's good. At Kentucky, Chattanooga, Auburn. They're on fire.
24-10.
As opposed to
24-10.
Ole Miss, who would have beaten A&M, Georgia.
A&M would have beaten the exact same team.
Monroe's awesome.
Yeah.
And then Mississippi State on the road. You don't just go into Starkville and come out with a win.
You actually don't.
So
Not in the Egg Bowl.
I think Ole Miss would be hotter.
You know that Alabama beat all those teams too, right? Okay.
Not lately.
Oh yeah, you're right. A&M was
not Georgia.
Months ago.
They can't beat Georgia. Alabama can't beat Georgia. They've never done it, have they?
All right, 24-10. 24-10. These two teams played. Alabama's better.
Yeah, but like 2 months ago.
Significantly. You just were worried that they couldn't beat A&M this week.
Oh, I am worried about that because A&M's good.
Damn. Old Jimbo's got to get to bowl eligibility. Earn that money. Earn that money.
Classic Kiffin.
It's gonna be such a great weekend, dude. I'm ready to pull hell off at its hinges, man. I'm ready to go. It's gonna be such a great weekend.
Yeah.
Texas A&M. Arkansas, Florida, by the way, is an important game. Kentucky, Mississippi State's an important game. Yeah. Auburn has a chance to get over 500 with a win on the road against Vanderbilt. There's other games that are happening this weekend in the SEC that are actually important. It's must win for Arkansas, Florida, Auburn, Kentucky, Mississippi State. Those are all must-win games for all those teams.
What's the most likely upset?
South Carolina,
based on the spread this week in the SEC, because we've just not had these many upsets this entire year in the SEC.
If Arkansas wins on the road, I think that's the one that's possible.
Yeah, that'd be a big upset.
But I would still consider a big upset. If Texas A&M wins, I would not call it a big upset. If Kentucky is only a 3.5-point favorite on the road loses, that would not be a huge upset. I think if Jacksonville State and old Rich Rodriguez should have been the head coach at Alabama, if Rich Rodriguez pulls an upset on the road against South Carolina because South Carolina can't block anybody, that's a big one to keep an eye on.
A lot of people think that could happen. I don't know. I don't know if those are just trolls or what, or if maybe Michigan has not scouted Jacksonville State's signals. So
are you kidding?
That's going to hurt Shane Beamer and company this weekend.
Former Michigan head coach.
Oh, yeah.
Rich Rodriguez.
You're putting the pieces. Yeah, I like what you're doing here. So that is something to consider. I believe Jacksonville State's got an elite running attack, and that's South Carolina does worse than anybody is stop the run.
Rich Rodriguez helped Shane Beamer scout against his own team. Now we're deep. We're deep into the weeds on this.
I'd buy it. He's trying to get that
buyout. It's the biggest non-story in the history of stories. I think it's so stupid. He's going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears next year, no matter what. Let's move on.
Shane Beamer? That's bold.
No, Jim Harbaugh.
That's bold.
Jim Harbaugh.
Beamer ball.
He took it
in Chicago.
Can you imagine? Think about this. You're talking about drama with coaches, and I know we got to go, but can you imagine if an SEC coach, Shane Beamer, Lane Kiffin, just whoever, if an SEC coach interviewed for an NFL head coaching job on National Signing Day, publicly on National Signing Day.
Bobby Petrino probably did that once or twice, didn't he?
I doubt it. People would lose their shit in the SEC. It's what Harbaugh did last year. He interviewed with the Vikings on National Signing Day. I've never heard of this. I've been around college football for 20 years.
I bet Nick Saban's done it.
Not on National Signing Day, he doesn't.
What about Brian Kelly? I could see him doing it.
So the answer is no. Nobody has done it.
Could Kirby take that day off?
Kirby doesn't know what PTO is. He doesn't understand.
Yeah, that'd be wild. But then if you keep winning, no, I don't think anyone cares.
Ole Miss to win, Bama to win, Georgia to win. Favorite. Don't like any upsets this week. So no fence sitting for me. Otherwise, must wins for Kentucky, Auburn, Arkansas, Florida. We'll see. Keep an eye on that as well. Please head on over to the 440 Sports YouTube page. Give us a subscription. We do appreciate it. There are game previews up every single week over there. We're going to have probably at least 3 different previews up this week with LSU, Alabama, with the great Stephen Lasson, of course, and myself doing those games. We'll talk Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and we'll talk Missouri, Georgia as well. So make sure you head on over there and give us a follow, give us a subscribe. We do appreciate it. Maybe one day Michael will promote the fact that this live show is happening on one of his other shows. If you could do that, that'd be great. If you want to scroll to the bottom of the podcast app and give us 5 stars, we would appreciate that as well. It does help people find us. For all you guys in the comments who have been great this week, we love you. Thanks for hanging out. Enjoy the weekend. And for Mike, thanks for, I guess, listening to the show. I do appreciate it. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.